Hello and welcome to Abandoned Cart, the podcast we wish we had when running our own e-commerce store. My name's Adam Smith and I'm one of the co-founders of Pink Leopard, a growth acceleration agency specialising in e-commerce. And joining me today is Laura, my business partner and co-founder of Pink Leopard as well. We kick every episode off with this question so that the audience can get to know our guests on a bit more of a personal level. So, Laura, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received and how has it impacted your life?
Thank you for having me. And yes, the best piece of advice, it's always kind of my go-to, which is you are your greatest resource. And I suppose it's impacted me because, well, like on a day-to-day basis, probably in motherhood, like parenthood massively, but also work-wise. And they kind of said everything has a solution, everything is figure outable, and you will to find a solution, you're your best resource and you will find the solution essentially. So whenever I'm, even with starting this podcast, for example, it's yes, we are our greatest resource, whether we use Google or more recently ChatGPT to find the solutions, there is always a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that brings us on to the topic of today, because you would have had to have done that when you started your own e-com store and be extremely resourceful. So the topic for today is we're going to talk about Canvas Creatures, which is an e-com store that you actually started 6-7 years ago now, a while ago, alongside Pink Leopard. So we're going to talk a little bit about the highs, the lows, the learnings, the successes of running an e-com store, but also how you would have had to have been incredibly resourceful throughout that time. So the context for the listeners, can you give us a bit of an overview of Canvas Creatures?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm also then thinking in my head, how long ago was it? I feel you always go to say 3 years, but actually you're no, we were in lockdown then. And it was definitely a while before that. So yeah, I think it was about 5-6 years ago. But Canvas Creatures so we started it stupidly alongside Pink Leopard, the agency, obviously before you came on board, Adam, and thought it'd be a really good idea to start an e-commerce store alongside of the agency, which it turns out that it wasn't because of how time intensive they both were. But yeah, it kind of, obviously, as our agency, Pink Leopard, helping e-commerce store owners to grow and scale, I really wanted to have my own e-commerce store because I was so passionate about it, and also to just kind of go through all of the learnings and the lessons and just face the, everyday troubles that e-commerce store owners go through to grow and scale their business. And it was in that regard the best thing that I kind of ever did. So at the time, I found a business partner who had his own printing business, and we came up with the idea of, he always sort of wanted a print on demand business because of his printing studio that he had up in Newcastle, and I always wanted the e-commerce store. So we met at NatWest Accelerator program, and I was really diving deep into what product, and we sort of came up with the fact with something animal related, because everybody loves animals, and it was a time where print on demand was quite a big opportunity in the e-commerce world. So yeah, we kind of joined forces. Canvas Creatures was born, and it's a e-commerce store where people would send their pictures of their pets in. We would then take that picture, we had artists in-house who would turn that into a piece of art, sort of almost like cartoonized, is that a word? And then we would print it on mugs, canvases, and then they'd be sent out to our customers from there. So that's kind of exactly what it was, and I suppose a little bit about why we started it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you did it alongside starting Pink Leopard as well, because I think a lot of agencies will go into the world of e-commerce and they'll be great from a technical perspective. But as we know, e-com has so many moving parts to it. So for us to be the best at what we can do, we need to understand website performance, fulfillment, delivery, customer service, reviews, all of those other things that is really important for an e-com store alongside the marketing. So being able to understand the actual entire operation, but also then being able to test different tactics and strategies on your own money in your own time rather than a client's time, I think is a really powerful way to get started in this world.
Yeah, 100%. And it showed, I suppose, and yeah, as you say, with Pink Leopard, we never want to be, oh, well, we're running the Facebook ads and so that's working, so everything else is up to you. If they're, generally not seeing the returns, or they're worried about the attribution and it's saying it's not coming from the marketing, there's so many, different cogs. And I just learnt just so much through that period. Like with attribution, obviously that's one of the banes of our life, isn't it? And most marketers and e-commerce store owners. And something that I suppose I'd wanted to prove for ages when working with clients, if they were saying, well, our sales aren't coming from Facebook because we're looking in Shopify and it's not attributing. And one of the things with Canvas Creatures is we started with no customers. Nobody knew about us. There's no way in the world you could know about us unless we told you or you saw an ad, because organically we hadn't built up yet and there was no SEO. And so when we started in the August, and we did in that first quarter, that first Q4 period, that's obviously why we'd wanted to start. We started spending a couple of grand a month on ads, and then we quickly grew to, I think we were spending about 10, 20k a month then, sort of October, November, December. Yeah, because we did 100k in sales that first Q4. But Shopify and Google Analytics were still like, you're not getting, hardly any of your sales are coming from Facebook ads. But that was literally the only thing that we were doing to generate sales. And that was one of my, that was definitely a test that I kind of really wanted to do with having my own store. Because obviously the only way to really know is working with clients is just turn all their advertising off. And obviously if they're a huge, £1 million business, they're not going to want to just turn all their ads off to do that test. But that was one of my first kind of experiences of like, yes, attribution is very difficult. And, you've got to use other sources to understand where these sales are coming from. So yeah, there was a lot of tests, as you say, that we could do as well. And it was on our dime, not on our client's dime.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And so would that be, you obviously touched on attribution there, would that be your absolute number one standout learning from the entire process with Canvas Creatures?
No, but that was one. What would be the learning? Oh, there were so many learnings. I suppose one thing I would say is that probably the paid advertising is one, is literally just one piece of the puzzle. And this was sort of, as we said, it was 5-6 years ago when we started Canvas Creatures. And it was then that, you could just have this store, you could have an idea, the product could be okay. There was we had a lot of competition. We definitely weren't the only people doing this. And it kind of came a bit of a trendy thing and an easy thing for people to start. So competition increased. But that paid piece obviously worked really well over Q4, but quickly realized that we were very much a seasonal. I mean, obviously we were gifting. So yeah, we knew we were going to be a gifting brand anyway. But as soon as it then came to sort of Jan, Feb, March, our paid ads had to work, our return on ad spend really dropped, and we had to work really hard to generate that revenue. And it was kind of like, it really hit home that, and we started to do more and more, but the organic socials, like the PR, all of the stuff that you're doing outside of it, working with, influencers, all of the email marketing, it was that hit home, because at the time when I started Pink Leopard, we were just Facebook advertisers. And it was like, Facebook's the best thing. That's all you need to grow a business, which was true at that time. But that certainly changed. And it was like, no, we need to really do so much more. And I suppose that's when I kind of realized that Canvas Creatures was going to be a lot of work alongside the agency as well. I think I was naive to think I can just run paid ads, but really, and this is probably a piece of advice to the e-commerce store owners that, just starting out, that you do have to, it's multi-channel and you do have to be doing so many other things. Otherwise your paid advertising is very expensive.
Yeah, 100%. It's a conversation we're having a lot with prospects that are interested in working with Pink Leopard, but also clients, to not look at the individual platforms in silos, but seeing them working together in tandem, because that is how you're going to get your best results. If you're putting all of your eggs into Facebook, it's not going to be as successful as it can possibly be. So like you say, you need to have, obviously, looking at Facebook, Instagram, making sure your organic's right, getting Google right, email and SMS, looking at your web design, your conversion rate optimization, your customer service, all of these different things that you've got to get right. But from the marketing perspective, yeah, absolutely. Facebook will only take you so far. So you have to have the other elements. And then, you throw TikTok and the likes in the mix as well, which we would always recommend if you've got the capacity and the budget to go on that platform as well. But ideally, you want to be across all channels, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had that recently, didn't we, with a client with us coming up with their sort of scaling plan. They were a brand that did a lot of this offline activity. And so we were able to sort of attribute that. I think it was, around 30-40% of what their sales generated were from all the additional stuff they were doing, which was brilliant. And obviously that meant that to scale to hit the next returns, we didn't have to spend as much as you would if a brand wasn't doing that stuff. It's more like your paid advertising could account for 90% of what you're doing. And so you have to, that's quite a risky place to be, because you can't ever turn off your paid advertising. And if you go through changes like iOS and for Facebook ads and, all the other changes that have been, and I'm sure are to come, then it's just so volatile, just relying completely on the paid side of things. And obviously that's why, as Pink Leopard as an agency, we kind of expanded, isn't it, into Google and email so that we could help our clients control that sort of entire piece. And not just relying upon Facebook ads. That's another learning. Don't rely on one on one platform ever.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Would you do it again?
Do you know what? Yes, I would do it again. I am obsessed with e-commerce. Like, I absolutely love it, as you know, Adam, and as my husband knows, because I bore him to death with it all the time. But I really am so fascinated by the world of e-commerce and marketing, but also the product side. Obviously, my background was in buying for the likes of John Lewis and Next, and so that was all about product and choosing the right, knowing the audience and choosing the right product. So I really have that interest side as well, but also the marketing side. So I'd probably partner with somebody, because Pink Leopard obviously takes up so much of our time, and really that's where all my time goes, is dedicating it to ensure that we're doing the best job and helping our clients. But I would definitely love to have my own e-commerce project, for sure. You're thinking, no, don't do it.
Loads of times now. What happens with Canvas Creatures?
So I had it for about a year and a half, 2 years. No, it would have been, it was 2 years, definitely, because we had two Christmases. And we grew, we did. So we obviously launched that first Q4 period, did really, really well. That obviously gave us a lot of profit to then be able to invest in. We had an e-commerce consultant work with us. We were able to invest in photography, in email marketing, because at the time I didn't know a lot about, I knew about email marketing, but I wasn't skilled enough to be able to do all the design and the copywriting. So we hired someone for email marketing. We hired a VA to help us, and we did grow. And then we had an even bigger second Q4, which was great. But after that is when it really sort of hit home that unless I was the person that was the only one that was sort of driving the marketing and could do that. My business partner was great, but he was on the fulfillment side and he was good with websites. And obviously Pink Leopard was growing really rapidly. We're taking on new clients. So I decided to step away. And also, as I say, more businesses came on and it became quite a saturated, the print on demand world, and specifically the animal print on demand world. There was a guru at the time who decided to sell a course on how to set up a pet product print on demand business. I was like, no, because everybody's going to do this now. But it makes sense because it's obviously low cost to start, and there's so many fulfillment companies out there that you don't have to have a business partner who actually does the printing side. So it was a really easy business model for people who wanted to dip their foot into e-commerce. And so, after that Q4 period, I just kind of realized unless I spend a lot of time doing it, as I said, I went naively into it and probably anyone listening who running an e-commerce business is thinking it's full on, isn't it? It's just full time. It's your life. And it was very naive of me to think I could have two businesses running alongside of each other. So yeah, handed it over to my business partner, and he took it over and carried on with it for a while. I think he still is. I don't know if he drives it to, the place that we had kind of got it to because of the marketing side, but I think I still think, well, actually I did have emails over Christmas about it. So I think it still just trickles in revenue for him and is a bit of a cushy little side project. But yeah, I had real big goals for it to be a huge business, and that that's not a side business. It's not a side hustle.
Yeah, so it was Canvas Creatures or Pink Leopard in the end.
Yeah.
To go down.
Yeah.
And I suppose, like you say, all of the learnings that you had from Canvas Creatures and doing the marketing for it has led us to bring on clients at Pink Leopard and be able to implement those strategies and tactics and learnings and support those businesses on their journey. So yeah, it was a great foundation for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm forever grateful for all of those learnings and for all of the kind of connections we made. And as I say, we had an e-commerce, somebody in e-commerce, not marketing e-commerce, but a consultant who consulted to kind of the fulfillment and the whole side of it, the P&L, everything. So that was really good. And that kind of thing, a lot of agencies, obviously I'm not slating other agencies, but a lot of other agencies who work in the e-commerce world, they've not had, an e-commerce store themselves. I'm not saying obviously I, had like a Lululemon or anything like that, but it still was, it was driving sales. We grew it quite quickly. It was real life experience really. And so, being able to then relate to other e-commerce store owners on the marketing side, but also just understanding everything that they were going through, as I've said, like with attribution, with, like just working out what their return on ad spend should be, working out like all of their numbers. Obviously that's what we do at Pink Leopard, isn't it? And we're really proud of that. It's not just speak to a client, listen to, they want to double their revenue. It's like actually getting really under the skin of the brand, like understanding how the brand has a huge impact, even understanding things like seasonality, knowing whether they're just, a gifting period, or do we need to maximize on gifting periods throughout the year because that's really what their business is, or are they an all year round business? Learn a lot about seasonality with Canvas Creatures, and no matter how hard sometimes you do push with the paid ads, if it isn't what people want at that time, then there's nothing, that you can do. Also, even things like when it was hot in the summer and we didn't really generate any sales, it was understanding things like that. It's like, okay, this does really impact, because yesterday we were getting 100 sales and today we're getting 20 because it's a hot day. And kind of, I think sometimes, even just all of that, all of those learnings firsthand, not just, and then obviously working with loads of clients, we now have that knowledge because we work across so many different clients and so many different sort of areas, that we've got that knowledge that if we do know that it's, hot weather and sales have gone down, we can look at trends across our clients. But when we were just first starting out, that was really invaluable data that I had from running it myself. So yeah, it was really good learning. But now just excited that that was a while ago before you then came on board, didn't you? But now we're driving Pink Leopard forward, and don't have time for e-commerce businesses of my own.
Yeah, but definitely the theory versus the practice really is the best. Like you say, there's that reality when it's really, really hot outside and people aren't naturally on their phone and stuff like that. So it's just being mindful, I suppose, which is the extra little bits that you get from actually running your own e-commerce store. So you said that you would potentially enter into another e-commerce store with a partner if it was the right business, the right fit and the right opportunity. Is there anything that you would do differently stepping into it now with all of this knowledge from Canvas Creatures and everything that we do at Pink Leopard with the many e-com stores that we work with? What would you do differently that you were doing with Canvas Creatures?
100% is having the right product. that's what I would do differently. I think Canvas Creatures, it was good, and it was a bit of a fad, I suppose, at the time, and I think, and it wasn't unique. It was, I don't know, there's a lot of brands out there that are hugely successful that aren't necessarily, the only one in the market. But yeah, Canvas Creatures wasn't very unique. We didn't really have a USP. So I'd definitely say that I'd be really, really selective over the product, understanding the market, understanding the competition, understanding the size of the audience, like how much can it scale, can it grow into other countries. Before, I think it was just like I was so confident in my Facebook advertising abilities, I was just like, yeah, I can literally sell anything to anyone using Facebook, which again at the time you kind of could, but it's not like, it's obviously not like that now. It all starts with the product and the product you're offering in the market and your USP. So that's the very first thing that I would look at before even stepping into that world again.
Yeah, I think on top of that as well, the actual brand and the core message that you're trying to convey to your customers, I think that gets missed a lot by businesses kind of starting out. And I understand why, because they may have a great logo and a nice product, but really getting that brand piece right, which is a whole separate podcast and a major topic. But I think that, coupled with everything you just said about what you would do differently, I think is a really important piece for e-com store owners to remember.
Yeah, definitely. And we have somebody coming on the podcast, don't we, to talk about brand, which is exciting. Because again, with Pink Leopard, that has helped me learn a lot. And obviously, and you working with loads of different e-commerce stores, we work a lot on brand and we sort of advise and touch on it, but we're not a branding agency, and you can't be everything to, you can't be absolutely everything to everyone. And so that's why we're really excited about this podcast, aren't we? To bring in different experts in different niches, such as branding, to be able to, give simple bite-sized advice to e-commerce store owners, and that I wish that I had when I was running Canvas Creatures. So yeah, that is exciting.
Yeah, 100%. And for anybody who is listening, if you have a particular topic that you would like us to do, please get in touch, because we can create a podcast around it. We're leaning on some really interesting people in this space. So any topic would be open to. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think would be worthwhile the audience knowing?
Ooh, good question. I didn't know this question was coming. Is there anything? I suppose it just the number one thing. I only because I've been asked this before, and it was good advice for that podcast. But I think knowing your numbers is really, really, really important for e-commerce owners, and that is something again with Canvas Creatures that we didn't really know to start with, and having the e-commerce consultant come in to say, do you understand, literally everything, your profit margin, your cost to acquire a customer, your retention rates. Then you can work out obviously your minimum return on ad spend, and that will help you with when you can scale. At the start, we were kind of like, we're getting 4 times return, let's just scale. But yeah, it kind of wasn't as simple as that. We had to really then sort of backtrack and do a lot of work to work out our numbers and where we were and work profitable, because we didn't have an email marketing. We didn't really have that sort of lifetime value piece. So yeah, I'd say to really know your numbers and work with somebody to really understand your numbers inside out, because that's where you can get yourself in a pickle. But also, if you don't know your numbers, you can actually be scaling more than you thought you were. We get a lot of brands, don't we, saying like, we've got to hit a 4 times return, or we've got to hit a 5 blended, but they don't really know why, and actually they only need a 3 to be profitable. So then they stunt their growth because they're not, they can spend more because there's margin there and there's a buffer. So yeah, that's what I'd probably would be my advice, is to know your numbers.
Yeah, 100%. And I've been on a conversation just earlier today, and it all comes down to the numbers and knowing the numbers, because it has a massive bearing on the strategy that we would implement for them. So like you say, the scaling piece, which, 99% of e-com stores want to scale and grow, but without having that finer detail, you're kind of shooting a little bit blind, really.
Definitely.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. It was really interesting.
Thanks for having me. Our own podcast. A bit of a different one today.
But thank you everyone for joining us today. If you do have any aspect of digital marketing that you would like to discuss with Pink Leopard, just go to pinkleopard.co.uk and drop us a message or give us a call, and we'd be more than happy to help.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for interviewing me, Adam. Bye.
Bye.